I can kind of get caught up and forget. All right, so we're going to be talking about, like I was just saying before we started recording. After last week's class and what I posted, it resulted in a little bit of negative feedback. For the most part, it was positive that we got on that, but there was some who were upset. One group in particular that popped up on the radar, and one of my students, after we cut off the recording, made a comment that you should be very careful who you let into this class, which is a given. This is why we screen people in the past classes. I've gone through many hundred applications into this course and had to talk to each and every one of them. I couldn't just let anybody in to this class, and there was a reason for that, folks. As I was just telling the students before we started recording, there's a very dangerous group. It is a cult that uses the Bible codes to do evil. And so we're going to be exposing that right here really quickly. I got a couple of things I want to share. I did a few videos a few years ago, but I had it on private. Just didn't want that content on my channel, and I revived it today. I took it off of private and put it back on public because of what happened. Okay, so somebody already tried to hack the system, as I told you, um, James' system, but then there was also interaction from this cult group on Facebook, and so I knew what it was about and what they're after. So it makes a lot of sense to me that they would try to infiltrate or try to acquire what we're trying to do. And this is why we're going to protect it. Okay. We're not just going to give it to anybody. I'll let anybody use it. You can come to the website and take it for a test drive, but we're not just going to give it to anybody. Okay. You got to show me that you are somebody that's stable. Okay. And there's a reason for that. Okay. I'm not trying to keep people from searching codes or anything like that. On the contrary, I would like everybody to have the opportunity and the ability to do so, uninhibited from languages or anything like that. Matter of fact, if they had such access, maybe these kind of cults wouldn't be possible because the fact of the matter is, and what I'm going to show you, there are some people who are not so knowledgeable about the Bible and are obviously easily tricked by evil people who will use religion to deceive, to defraud, to manipulate, and to do wickedness. Okay. And it just so happens this group uses the codes in this deception that it's been going on since 2011, I think. I first come in contact about 2012, 2013. I had enough and started exposing it on YouTube, which is the video I'm going to show you after I introduce you to this group. But they are the sole reason why I do screening and why we are not letting anybody like this into our school. Okay. So we're going to talk to everybody. We're going to have some screening, and the thing is, I don't want to be responsible for enabling somebody to go take something we created and go and do evil. You understand? So obviously, we're going to be protective of what we create. Okay. Um, that's the basis of it. It has nothing to do with anything else, anything personal. I don't have vendettas against people, and oh no, you can't have. No, it's not like that. I want everybody to be able to interact with the Bible. Okay. Search the codes, find your name, be encouraged, that kind of thing. But I cannot let people use it for evil. So, the Rael cult, you guys. Raymond Elwood Lear, who is a criminal. He is wanted by the FBI. He has been convicted of kidnapping. Get this, he did this with his mother. He and his mother got convicted of trying to kidnap a woman. I'm not even kidding you, folks. This is all documented. All right. I'm going to leave a link down below of this 4-hour documentary. We're only going to cover the code part of it. because we're going to have to blow the lid off of this, right? And show why we can't just let anybody into this class and take this software. Okay. So this guy put together this presentation. It's 4 hours long. I'm only going to show you just a short part of it. If you want to watch the whole thing, and I would encourage that you do, you guys. I've watched it 3 or 4 times. It is very well put together. I'm kind of surprised he didn't mention me in there, but I realize now that didn't have any of my videos public when he did. Otherwise, I think he might have used it. Um, so at this point, at 1 hour in it, that's when he starts talking about the Torah codes and how this group uses keys to the Bible to manipulate. So let's just start here, and then I'm going to show you what I found on the guy. I quickly debunked this group and tried to share with the people of his group. And it was really like spinning wheels in mud. You really got nowhere with it. It was almost as if there was a strong delusion, and for the most part I think the leadership are all in on it. Okay, so just know that. Oh, by the way, this guy that did this presentation admits in the beginning of this that he knew absolutely nothing about Christianity or the Bible when he found this group. He was looking for truth, okay? And he fell for this crap for 8 years until finally, I mean, he says that at some point he started reading the Bible and seeing inconsistencies, like this guy doesn't have nail-scarred hands, right? That would have been my first thing. Let me see the nail scars. Let me stick my hand in your side. You say you're Yeshua, right? He didn't know all that, right? Anyway, thankfully, Yah saved him out of this, and he put together this presentation.
An introduction. Moving on to the Torah codes. What are they? As a preface to this subject, I am not an expert by any means, but I do have enough knowledge to grasp a basic understanding, which is far more than what the majority of the clergy can say within the ecumenical order of Christ.
That's
the Torah codes,
that's
also
the group.
known as Bible or Tanakh codes,
by the way,
refers to
they call themselves the ecumenical order of Christ. Okay.
Controversial theory that there are hidden messages and secrets within the Hebrew text of the Torah, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible. The idea is that by skipping certain intervals of letters in the text, meaningful words and phrases can be found that are related to historical events, people, and predictions of the future. This concept that there might be hidden codes in the Torah was first proposed in the 12th century by the French rabbi Shlomo Yitzhaki, also known as Rashi. However, the modern concept of Torah codes, or Bible codes, is typically traced back to the work of the Israeli mathematician Eliyahu Rips and his colleagues in the late 20th century. In the 1980s and 90s, Rips and his team used computers to search for hidden messages in the Torah by skipping equal numbers of letters in the text. They claimed to have found many meaningful words and phrases related to historical events, including the names of famous rabbis and world leaders, and even predictions of future events. These findings were published in several books and articles, and generated a great deal of controversy and debate within both religious and academic circles. Proponents of the Torah codes argue that these hidden messages are evidence of divine authorship of the Torah, and that they provide insights into the past and future. However, critics of the theory argue that the codes are the result of random chance, selective attention, and subjective interpretation. The Torah codes have been the subject of much debate and controversy among religious scholars, mathematicians, and others. While some people consider the codes to be a fascinating and meaningful discovery, others view them as a pseudoscientific and unfounded claim. The EOC. And then there's the EOC. None of the following individuals can speak Hebrew, let alone write it, and have little knowledge of the language as a whole. Yet, somehow, they've been putting out Torah code tables for the world to view since 2012 and onward, making pretentious claims that Rael's name has been discovered in the Torah codes hundreds of times, typically alongside the range of names and titles attributed to Christ. I am obligated to call out the EOC Torah code researchers by name, despite having reservations in doing so, simply because they are or have assisted in promoting Raymond's lie. You can find all of their public works in the EOC's VK and Facebook Torah Codes groups.
Let me just say this, folks. Now, this is the big reason why there's a need for a school and a need for someone to lead the pack with a high standard, right? And methodology. Because what you're about to hear, there's no methodology. And this is one of the ringleaders right here, Richard Ruff. He's an Australian. And for some reason, this group has a lot of Australian members. I don't get it. I don't understand the connection, but it's a fact, okay? He is one of them. He calls himself the prime cleric. I I engaged initially with this guy right here who was trying to convince me he was an independent code researcher because I was putting out Yeshua codes and stuff like that. And he was like, hey, man, we found the Messiah. The Messiah has returned. And he started engaging me and stuff. And at first, I thought, okay, um, what is going on here? And the more I listened to him, the more I looked at his codes, and I started thinking either this guy is crazy, or he doesn't actually believe what he says and he's just running a scam, right? I was trying to figure him, and at first I didn't know if he and Lear and all them were all the same people or what, because there's so many entities that you interact with this. I kid you not, it was like a pack of wolves. One of them's called Angelus Domini, other one's called the Apostile, this one's called the Ecumenical Prime Cleric, right? And it was they were some of them are faceless. They don't even show their face. So this is how you start thinking, well, maybe these are just like the brother was saying here, bots, maybe. I don't know, but it's like a pack of wolves.
Center, Richard Ruff, the head honcho responsible for discovering and distributing Raymond's codes, also known as the prime cleric of the EOC. He said he served in the Australian military and was trained in radio communications, and had learned to encode and decode messages for the battlefield. A quote of his from one of the church's books is as follows: "This training, along with my love for the Bible and God's works, guided me to the Bible codes, using computers to decrypt secret and often prophetic messages from the original Hebrew texts. In May 2011, I found a series of mysterious online postings about the returned Christ from someone calling himself Angelus Domini in a Bible."
All right, and let's just be clear here. We've already, at first I didn't know, but since members came out and started identifying these names, we know that this is Raymond Lear that poses as Angelus Domini.
Bible Codes forum I was a member of. Unfortunately, I've heard this and similar stories.
Another really interesting thing about not only where their location is, I find really fascinating, but the fact that they all wear white, right? Just like another group I know, um, just the whole gambit, the little kippas, right? Except these are a little more, Muslim like.
Before, echoed by other members who have joined his church. The software that the EOC uses is called Keys to the Bible, which makes use of the complete Masoretic text, divided into a total of 39 books, instead of the Hebrew Standard 24. One striking oddity regarding Richard Ruff is a lesser-known detail: the fact that he's been cult hopping. Before joining Lord Rael's cause around 2012, Prime Cleric Richard was a member of the Australian cult, the Magnificat Meal Movement, MMM, since about 1996, led by the false prophetess Deborah Burslam. After affirming his new belief in Rael, he systematically and trademarkably attributed several natural disasters that affected her as emanating from Lord Rael.
All right, so this is really fascinating to me because they tried to use this psychology on me as well, right? So if you don't agree with them, they start claiming natural, like, all right, so I live in Miami, so let's say a hurricane happens, right? The next thing you know, they're making videos. Jonathan's being judged, right? And Rael sent a hurricane to judge Jonathan, right? And so they spin this whole narrative. I mean, this is like the whole motive thing, like or what do you call it when people do the same thing over and over and over again, right? It's like their thing. They use natural disasters to intimidate people and make people think, or try to make people think that they're being judged. But you never see this guy do a legitimate miracle, raise somebody from the heal somebody. Nothing like that. You never see that. It's always something from the news that this guy cherry picks and says, "Oh, you're being judged." For instance, they tried to convince Oprah Winfrey that she was the prophet Elijah, right? Well, she wasn't having that. And by the way, they started sending her stuff and making her, like, her mother died like a month later. Uh, this was from Rael. Rael said he killed her mother because she wouldn't believe. Just bizarre mind trick, like mind Jedi, Jedi mind trick kind of stuff, right?
including the calamitous Cyclone Pan. Back to the codes. There have been several other, quote, Torah code researchers, unquote, that have emerged from this church entity over the years, granted, most of whom were seemingly trained by Richard Ruff himself, and were also clergymen at one time or another. Again, none of them, to date, speak Hebrew. These include Cardinal Emilio Hansen, Cardinal Clark Isaac, the now deceased Archbishop Selina Scott, rest in peace, the Holy Prophet Michael Har, and ex-clergyman Joseph Wolcott. Cheating the Code. Angelus Domini, along with his band of indoctrined disciples, have gone so far as to even verbally assault Rabbi Mattiyahu Glazerson, a controversial Bible codes expert, author, youth instructor, and inhabitant of Israel. In a series of online videos on the rabbi's YouTube channel, he says that the EOC's researchers routinely join words together that don't make any sense in connection with the tables, and aren't found in any Hebrew dictionaries. He also confirms that any native speaker...
It's gibberish, folks. It's a bunch of garbage. And the fact that people don't know any better makes them easy to deceive.
...of Hebrew in so many words would never make these same ridiculous mistakes. He claims that the EOC's code researchers are both forgers and cheaters. It's a safe bet to say that this rabbi knows far more about the Torah than any of the aforementioned individuals. Glazerson's standards for good codes, to recap, are as follows. 1. Proper Hebrew. 2. Minimal skips. 3. Good meetings between words concerning the table. 4. A restriction to the Torah only.
All right, so we obviously don't do that, right? We know that it's not just the Torah only, but the other I agree with. That's good methodology, right? Minimal skips, closest meeting. You want to see clusters of words, not things that are just spread out and huge skips, right? Because this could be in the realm of randomness when you see stuff like this, especially if you see words that are unrelated, which is an asset of this code program they were using, that they were manipulating.
As allowing searches within the rest of the Hebrew Bible results in far too many possibilities. Glazerson discovered that the main search term Lord Rael only appears once within the Torah, and has adjunct terms such as liar and cheater. Glazerson used the characters Resh Aleph Yud Aleph Lamed in this particular search. Admittedly, Google Translate states that this was an incorrect spelling, which rendered into Rael, and
which is not exactly true, folks. I encountered the same thing with them. There's multiple ways of spelling many words that are, you know, originally English words like this, like the Rael. This is a phonetic spelling of that word
instead of Rael, which may or may not have been an error. With that in mind, in another video, Glazerson further explains that there are multiple ways to spell this non-standard truncation. He also showcases a discovery with the main search term Cheater Rael, using another spelling for his name, Resh Yud Yud Aleph Lamed, that the EOC also uses, which I verified only appears once in the Torah. Short length. Here's the problem with these codes. As previously stated, they are gravely susceptible to bias. The odds against random chance are only listed for the primary search term in most instances that I can see. The names Rael and Rael are non-standard Hebrew names. They are very short and thus easier to find. Rael is only 5 Hebrew characters, and Rael 4.
Now, what he is saying here, what the point he's trying to make here, you guys, is that these guys were using 4 and 5 letters for their access term. Now, imagine that. And that these guys were searching the Torah because they want to stand to and be like the rabbis, only searching the Torah. However, I don't believe that's the case. I think they looked in the other part as well. But they probably couldn't manipulate the prophecies about Yeshua. But 4-letter words in all of the Torah, you get many results. Your initial term should not be that many letters. It should be as many as you could put. First and last name. If you can't find the first and last name, then it should be the last name with the abbreviation of the first and middle name. As many letters as you can put in there. You don't want to search codes on a access term that's only 4 letters, folks. Okay?
Take a look at the number of Rael occurrences that spans the entire Hebrew Bible. The application stops
4 letters, okay? He's searching 4 letters. Now watch what it says when the expected number of occurrences come up.
Counting after reaching 10,000, and has an expected number of discoveries at over 1 million.
So the computer program is telling you that you can expect to find some sort of permutated example, and we're talking about every skip from 0 to whatever of these letters. And this is how many results that you could probably find. That is not impressive. This is not probability, by the way. This is not probabilities. This is expected number of occurrences. This is different than probabilities, okay?
500,000. Let's check Rael.
Actually, you want to see something that's rare, not all through the Bible, like 4 letters, okay? 12 million occurrences for these 4 letters. I'm not impressed. But these guys will take that information and say, see, he's encoded 12 million times. Magic, huh? No, actually, it's a trick. This is what he means by manipulating.
Just under 12,800,000 expected occurrences. Please, I ask that you hold your excitement until the end of this section. More common terms searched by the EOC to support their cause include Lear, Lamed Yud Resh. The second
3 letters. Now, if you search for just the last name Lear in all of the Bible, guess how many times you're going to find it? Millions. Millions of times. Does it mean it's significant? Absolutely not.
part of Raymond's double surname, Howard Lear, which is only 3 Hebrew characters. Survey says 346 million expected finds. Howie, Hey Vav 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 Yud.
Interesting that his nickname is Howie. Anybody notice something right there? What is that? Anybody tell me what these letters are? Vav, Vav, Vav is what? It's 666. That's correct.
Moniker for the first part of his double surname at 5 Hebrew characters. 4,457,000 expected occurrences with this spelling. Elwood, Aleph Lamed Vav Vav Dalet. Raymond's middle name at 5 Hebrew characters, just under 670,000. Raymond, Resh Yud Yud Mem Vuv Nun Dalet. At a whopping 7 characters in length, the highest count mentioned thus far, with expected occurrences of about 2,000. Other means of subterfuge include using the 1 Hebrew character words for Lord, Alpha, Omega, etc., which are easy to place just about anywhere, and adjoining said characters to Rael and Rael, for example. As a simple means of comparison, let's search for a few other 5-character Hebrew words using the software's built-in dictionary, and see how often they appear within the text. Messianic. Mem Shin Yud Shet Yud. About 440,000 expected results. Mashiach. Mem Vav Shin Yud Sadi. At 224,000 expected.
Actually, that is not Mashiach, folks. He's made a mistake there. I think he was trying to make a version of Savior, and I don't believe there's a Zadi in there. It's an Ein.
Redeemer. Mem Vav Shin Yud Ein. At 671.
That is what he was trying to do there.
1,000. Kingdom. Mem Lamed Vav Kaf He. About 800,000. And two variants of the word Lord. The first, Aleph Resh Vav Bet He, at 817,000. The second, Lamed Shin Lamed Vav Tet, at 54,000. The point I'm trying to make here is that
now each one of those searches, you guys, he wasn't doing a standard search. Let's be really clear on that. Each one of those was an access term, your initial term. And if you are just searching for minimal letters, the results are going to be tremendous in the number of times it occurs, but you shouldn't be impressed by that, okay? What you should be impressed by is a maximum of letters. In your initial term, you want to see as many letters as possible because statistically, this makes it more rare. Okay, everybody understand? Now, you can start with small access term and find extensions on them if it makes sense and if it has context to the initial term. But, you know, if you just got random words stacked on each other, right, it doesn't make sense to spin a narrative of the meaning of all that because it probably has no meaning, right? This group does it quite often. That's what their codes look like. It's a bunch of random words all over. You know, what's the meaning? You know, just random grapefruit. You know, why is the word grapefruit in your table about the Messiah? And then we got to see this narrative of what the relevance of a grapefruit is in there. Does it has any context at all? No. If you've got to spin a narrative and the code doesn't speak for itself, it's probably random. Now, if your access term is fruit salad, and then you got the word grapefruit, you probably got a code. Does everybody understand? There's context involved.
Short words are expected in high numbers based on probability. Hence, I do not find any significance in any of Raymond's given names manually added to any code. Too many auxiliary terms. What about auxiliary terms? There are simply too many surrounding words related to each main search term, even if you narrow down your scope to within 15 or so letters in proximity, which Richard Ruff promotes doing.
Okay, now I just addressed that.
Here's but a single example.
I just addressed that. In Keys to the Bible, you've got an automatic word finder. It also finds phrases, okay? Because if you've got a matrix already established and you're working on that access term, just know that that's probably not the only access term there. There's probably other vertical terms that are encoded there that have nothing to do with what you're looking at. Because we're looking at, there are things that are layered and layered and layered, right? Encoded in the same region as one another, but may not have any kind of relative bearing on the access term at all. And so, like I said, if you've got to spin a narrative and explain why all these random words and what the relevance is in there, it's probably not a coherent code. It should speak for itself. It should be speaking a story or something. There should be interaction with the verses. And by the way, with these guys, you never see any verses in their codes. So it's like the text don't even matter. That's another level of Bible codes. It's a level that brings credibility to what's hidden. Okay? So if we're just finding random words and random things in there, not paying attention to the text that it's encoded in, and then we got to spin a narrative, I'm not impressed. Okay? Again, that is what this group exclusively does. And this is the need that somebody has a standard to say no. Right? Currently, it's been the rabbis. And then with this school, we've also tried to do the same thing, have a high standard for codes and call out the BS. All right. That's what these guys know through and through is a bunch of garbage.
And I assure you that most of these other codes are the exact same way. This is a prominent code that's been posted on Richard's Torah Codes website, Died by Crucifixion, Yeshua. Take a look at some of Richard's standards for how to produce a good table, which he included in a tutorial video from his YouTube channel. I've meticulously documented.
So died by crucifixion, Yeshua. All right. And so then we look for, 4 letters, Rael there. And then we attribute this guy, Raymond Lear, to Yeshua. You got to do better than that. I'm not buying it.
Documented all of the additional words surrounding the main search term by a distance of 15 letters, with 4 letters or more and a distance of just 1 character in all directions. This is how many words I found. 396 words, which was reported as 431 by the software. This number would have probably doubled or tripled in size if I had included 3-letter Hebrew words such as the code Lear. Keep in mind that I'm using an approximately 5-year-old copy of Richard's personal Keys to the Bible dictionary, which I've imported into the software. So there's more than likely a multitude of terms found here that wouldn't otherwise be present in the version that ships with the program.
Did you see what some of his terms are there? Yes, Lear. That's not impressive at all.
It's worth noting, too, that there is a discrepancy between what the program reported and what the final count was from my manually compiled list. I want to take this time to point out that this program is extremely antiquated and bug-laden. Keys to the Bible started reporting different counts each successive use when using the more identify words function, which I was, in turn, forced to ignore. On top of that, I had to export all of the words manually in a bizarre fashion, which I admit was a painstaking ordeal. So as you can see, the researcher is obligated to pick and choose what words to include, thus opening up an avenue for human fallacy, which doesn't make for a great combination if you include the personal bias present in all.
Notice how everybody's wearing white.
EOC clergymen. It's something akin to a cacophony of random words. Richard loses credibility. Here's another example of why Richard Ruff and his band of researchers lose all credibility. I happened upon the code for another Christ impersonator named Vissarion that Richard produced back in October of 2020. Yes, he was already an 8-year established code researcher at this point in time, excluding the time that he spent in the military. Do you see anything strange about this code? Put simply, he broke his own rules to counterfeit a result that was in line with his cherry-picking mentality. Now, if you thought that 5-letter words were common, then what about 2? Present here are 3 auxiliary terms that are a mere 2 letters in length. A feeble attempt.
All right, did you see that? Did you see those words there? They had no relation. It should have never even been used as a extension. Not at all. And I guess it's
line with his cherry-picking mentality. Now, if you thought that 5-letter words were common, then what about 2?
These are his extensions. 2-letter words that are stacked on each other. Right?
Here are 3 auxiliary terms that are a mere 2.
What does lamb, shovel, and denomination stuck? What does that have to do with anything? And by the way, Shem means name. All right. See what I mean by the spinning of the tech of the terms. And then, he has a narrative over there that he's written of what it all means.
2 letters in length, a feeble attempt to illustrate through the Torah code what is already obvious to so many around the world. Conclusion. In closing, for the reasons previously stated, I believe the Torah and Bible codes put out by the EOC have done nothing more than to serve and supplement Raymond's agenda. Am I saying that there aren't any hidden messages within the Torah? No, I'm not making such a bold statement, as there appears to be some legitimate findings produced by reputable and knowledgeable professionals in this field. These include works by authors such as Rabbi Matyahu Glazerson, Robert Herlick, and Eliyahu Rips, to name a few. The EOC researchers, however, have a prejudice that skews their results. In my opinion, I think the Torah and Bible codes are merely mathematical manipulation, and any short story or novella can produce any desirable string of characters, with enough diligence and a long enough skip.
So needless to say, he's got a bad taste for codes now because he saw how these guys manipulated. I want to fast forward to the next section. He's going to talk about George Soros and how this guy, he likes to, create demons that he could come against and stuff. Anyway, we're going to go to more code stuff here.
That claimed the prophet Elijah was Oprah Winfrey.
This is what I was just telling you. See how he's using the codes here? How he's tried to manipulate Oprah to come on board, and but like as if she would, I don't know, maybe she's weak-minded too and would, I don't know, it's worth a try, right? Huh? Maybe she'll believe the codes.
The EOC even had a social media campaign to reach out to her and try to get her on board with Lord Rael. That never happened. Oddly enough, Angelus Domini took ownership of the 2017 Thomas fire near her home as punishment for ignoring his messengers. A year later, he claimed ownership yet again for the death of Oprah's mother, claiming it was yet another chastisement for ignoring him and the EOC. Also in 2015, Raymond made the mighty claim that the Shekinah appeared above the head of Oprah in a 1988 photograph alongside.
Okay, this is him. This is Raymond Lear. He was, or supposedly, some say this is not even him, but he claims this is him, a guardian angel from Chicago. And you remember Oprah did a thing with them. I faintly remember that. I remember Mr. Silva and his group of Mary Angel Guardians. He claims to be one of them, or was.
Him and other guardian angels members. The Shekinah is a Hebrew term that denotes the presence of God and was first found in rabbinic literature. This is another bald-faced lie, as it was merely damage to the photograph. This being the late 80s, this image was probably shot with a Polaroid or something similar. Also observe the crease line at the top of the photograph. Here are some other examples of artifact damage taken from the photos in the same video where this was sourced. Most of the early images from this video are taken with a digital camera pointing at a Polaroid, as you can see the white edges surrounding some of these photographs. Anyway, several years after the Oprah mission failed, it seems that the prophet Elijah's spirit changed hands. One of the most pretentious Torah code researchers under Ruff is a man named Michael Haar. He found a series of codes which, of course.
Now, this is really something very common with them. They like to use the codes to confirm themselves. And by the way, we got a contradiction here because Michael Haar claims to be Elijah, and there's another code researcher, I think is, no, I stand corrected. He thinks that he's Moses. This guy thinks he's Elijah. So we have that.
Identified himself as the prophet Elijah. This became a recurring pattern within the EOC, as you will soon see. He anointed the false Messiah, Lord Rael, on Purim in a YouTube video back in 2019. I guess that
this is Raymond Lear. This fat, pudgy guy claims to be the returned Yeshua.
This was his first anointing because Raymond later jested that he was drenched in oil. Later that year, Michael also threatened the nation of Israel.
Apparently, Yeshua likes the purple rinse that old women use because his hair is purple, folks. I don't know if you caught that.
With death, rape, damnation, and more, heavily referencing Zechariah 14. Prime Cleric Richard Ruff as Moses 2015. Again verified through a series of Bible codes put out by both him and Michael, Richard started claiming to be Moses back around 2015. Who more suited to lead Raymond's church than Moses himself?
So this is a contradiction with Richard Ruff claiming to be Moses, but also Sean Mitchell claims to be Moses.
A very well-planned scheme. Around the same time, Richard also laid claim to being Enki, a god of wisdom, fresh water, intelligence, mischief, healing, creation, fertility, and art within the Sumerian pantheon, and brother to Enlil, who Lord Rael also claims to be. Yet another fitting role. The EOC released a grand theatrical video production back in 2017, showcasing the reveal of these two supposed Sumerian gods, which was in gestation for almost half a year, and utilized Raymond's intricate script. EOC Cardinal Emilio Hansen as Aaron 2017. According to the Book of Exodus, Aaron was Moses' assistant. Emil seized that role early on in the church, assisting Richard in producing numerous Torah and Bible codes throughout the years. There was even a very strange anointing video just for him in June of 2022. I'm not quite sure how this came about, but I believe it was related to a Christian rite named the Apostolic Succession. This essentially means that power and authority are handed down from the apostles to certain church leaders through subsequent generations. I personally believe this was a mere puerile display to accomplish nothing more than the bolstering of his ego, but that's just me. EOC Bishop.
All right, folks. Now, this is pretty extreme right here. If you got little kids in the room, that kind of thing, don't let them see this part of it, okay? Because what this guy did is blows my mind. It's akin to the Heaven's Gate cult, where many of the members did the same thing, and I'm talking about castration. This guy does it on camera to show his loyalty to this guy, right? And then he gets kicked out of this group as if he's too extreme, right? Which blows my. First of all, how this group has any kind of boundaries, I don't know, and why this is, of all things, is most extreme. I mean, the least you can do is let the guy stay. He gave up his nads for this group, right? But he's outcast, all right, as a mental job. I submit that everybody involved here has got some level of mental instability, but this one right here takes the cake. Okay, I believe he's from England too.
Matthew Lovell as St. Matthew 2013. I haven't the faintest idea how Matthew Lovell became St. Matthew, but I'm guessing it had something to do with the ancient Christian purification rite which he undertook, alongside his first name. Let's just say that he removed a certain body part of his in an ungodly and blasphemous act that he recorded on camera, and then sent that footage to his crazed King Elwood on Facebook as an act of allegiance. This whole incident was very hush-hush, and wasn't openly expounded upon by Raymond or the church, aside from an old post I found on Facebook, so it's difficult for me to provide evidence of this, though I'm sure the original video is still somewhere floating about on the internet. Tragically, he was later removed from the EOC's clergy by the Prime Cleric Richard Ruff due to his mental instability.
That was a little too extreme, I guess. Still, I think it's unfair. I mean, if the guy was going to go all out for you, Raymond, the least you could do is let him stay, right? But no, guy lost everything.
I was present, he wasn't even allowed to join the online clergy meetings anymore. Poor guy. Mokhtar Bel Mokhtar as the Dajjal,
All right,
aka the most.
He goes on and on and on with this. with this crap, you guys. Like I said, I only wanted to play just the code parts of it. It is quite extensive. It's like 4 hours long that this got put into this. But it's worth seeing. If you want your mind blown and you like novella kind of stuff, because it reminds me of a novella, Spanish soap opera. Um, yes, 4 hours. But this guy right here that we were just seeing was with this group for 8 years. So he documented, especially when before he left, he documented a lot. He knew he was leaving, and so he wanted to expose this group. And so he does a very good job at that in this. Now, this is no joke, folks. This is a very serious group. Now, if you watch the documentary, you'll see there's murders involved with this group. Um, there's pedophilia. I'm going to show you a video. This guy went on camera and try it. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, just a section where he starts talking about the age of consent. And he likes to use some words here, right? Well, what you need to do is just listen really closely, because what he's trying to do is justify what he's done. Okay. Um, in this, I want you to hear his voice, because the other video that I'm going to show you, the other connection to the other cult that's relatively in the same area is theatrics, using a Shakespearean voice when he's on camera and stuff, right? Without further ado, let me introduce you to Raymond Elwood Lear, aka Lord Rael. This particular segment, he's justifying why he likes young children.
Pleasure that you classify as sexual should only be allowed to those that reach the age of majority in your jurisdiction.
In your jurisdiction, he's saying, sex should only, he's saying, you say in your jurisdiction, those that are 18 and above are the only ones allowed. So he's trying to legitimize why it's okay to be with children.
What you're saying is that what made you happy should not be allowed to others. You are telling yourself that what most people enjoy is not enjoyed by someone below the age of majority in your jurisdiction. I want you to consider how bizarre that thinking is. Would an 18-year-old find something so enriching and pleasurable, yet a 17-year-old would be the victim of a crime and would require therapy, especially if that crime was enjoyed? Would it make any sense that a 16-year-old would not equally enjoy the pleasure the 18-year-old is legally enjoying? Move back further and further, and try to imagine at any point at which pleasure is criminal. at which enjoyment equates victimhood.
All right, you demon. You guys can see the point of manipulation, or at least I hope you can. How this guy manipulates. All right, so he had been accused. He likes to frequent whorehouses and places where people are sex trafficked, and this is testimony from former members in Baja. Okay, he particularly likes young girls. Okay, he's addressing that. Notice the title here, and this is Angelus Domini. This is him for the children, right? All right, so let's look at another one. Did you hear how he sounds? Listen how he sounds in this. Here's where the theatrics come, right? And also in this one, he's addressing the world, you and me, and why we're being punished, okay? So let me share that one with you. This one's quite comical here, I think. It's very Shakespearean. See how his hair's purple? He uses some kind of rinse.
I think you probably know why I'm addressing.
Different voice, huh?
2011. I came to you. My saints, apostles, even members of the Pantheon, proved to you my words. You did not believe. We have
Was that a scrunchie in his hair? So the Messiah wears a scrunchie. Okay.
tried.
Notice no scars in his hands. No nail scarred hands. Not one nail scar. And does the Messiah have a beer gut? Oh my God.
Tried compassion.
Also, the Messiah apparently loves Crocs.
Grace is a gift. No one earns it. But it is given to the world. How many of you? How many of you have lived up to the standards of our Father? How many of you have tried to save others, knowing I am here? You look on the news every day and you see doomsday in your face. Your eyes are filled with all of our anger. Everything we have done to bring you to us with love, not fear. Not fear. Still you refuse. Still you demand of us punishment, chastisement. All you want is for us to spank you like the children you are.
It would be comical if it wasn't so tragic.
We gave you deadline after deadline after deadline, hoping, praying that you would not force our hands. And each time, you threw our gift away. All we've wanted is to give you a paradise. Look around you. What do you see out there that is worth saving? No more deadlines. I'm sorry. But we can no longer make the worthy suffer for the unworthy. No longer will they be victims of your ingratitude. The end begins now.
Oh my God, I think I'm a little scared. Oh man. You guys scared? A little bit. This is what I'm talking about. The ramblings of a madman. Now, I don't think he believes a word he says, really. He uses a lot of psychology, like I said, a lot of mind bending and stuff like that, trying to make people think that natural disasters is, he did it, right? This goes way back, folks, and I'm talking about thousands and thousands of people have fell for the deception of this group. And originally I thought it was just one person perpetrating the whole thing and mimicking other people. Now I understand that it's a handful. It's actually a conspiracy of people. I think the top levels absolutely know the truth, but all the simple-minded people that don't have any understanding of the Bible fall for this crap. Okay, so here's the presentation that I did in 10 years ago. Only 578, and this is only one of uh, of the tables I did on him. This is a short video here. Here we go. This is a long time ago, you guys. All right, guys, this is for a very small audience. I've been watching your posts over there on your Torah code thread. And you guys, you blow my mind with the crap that you put on there. I mean, it's so much manipulation, it's unbelievable. And then to come back on me and to say that I don't know what I'm doing or I don't understand Hebrew, and you're talking to a Jew, by the way. Okay. You pick on, here's the table I first did. Let's just look at it. This is the Rael deception. And what you decided to pick on was the missing of a yod. Now, let me just school you on something real quick. There are different ways of expressing a word without using all letters. For example, the name Obama is spelled different ways. It can be spelled with another aleph or without that aleph. Same thing with Rael. Okay, so let's move on with that. You wanted to pick that one little part apart, but you wanted to disregard everything else was found in the matrix, all the other details, all the conjunctions of Ruff and Mr. Lear. Okay, every detail that I found there, you just totally want to disprove it. 963, very small width, guys. Okay, so let's go to the new table. 2 yods in this one, fellas. Rael, abomination, a demonic prescriptive. That's my access term. All those letters coming together at one time. Wow, what do you think of that? Standing right next to it, what do we have here? Whispering. And the blue letters coming off, whispering deceit, deception, right there. Here at the bottom, and these of a cult. Appearing right next to it, we've got collaborators, echo of a cult. And running right through that is consumed. What do we have here? We've got Lear, last name, standing right up under an abomination unto the Lord. All right, so let's look at Mr. Lear. Here's his name again, Lear. His name, Raymond, running right through it with Shakir. Navi Shakir, false prophet, manipulation runs up through here. So does heretic, running right off the screen there. All conjoining right in one area with from demons and wickedness. In the yellow, fraud, scam. Elwood in the blue, Elwood, all the way across. Elwood down here too, running across his name. And look at this. We've got the last name of Mr. Ruff here, sharing the resh of Raymond. Raymond appearing right there with Elwood. We got Catholic because we know you guys have a Catholic influence running right there. Catholic in the green. Pardon me. Got ahead of myself. In the green. Right up to the side, we've got criminal. Very small skip. Very small skip. Down in the purple in the very bottom. What do we got down there? Very small skip. Fraud. And guys, I'm not even going into the plain text of this. I mean, you didn't seem to care about what the last video had in the plain text. All these conjunctions of words means nothing, huh? You guys got a lot to learn about code searching. What you got over there is somebody manipulating your brain. Mr. Angelis, you say you have Jonathan Wright. Well, I submit to you, this is my table. This has everything about me in it. It even has my social security number in the side over here. So don't try to convince me that you found my name in the codes and you've got a couple of words to go along with it. That is baseless and lame. I mean, you have no idea what you're doing. You put together trash. This is my table. And there's nothing in it like you say. This tells me that I'm anointed by God, that I come from the tribe of Levi, which is my tribe. Like Novi, I would submit this, that the Rael firm here. So if you try to debunk this, you're a liar. I just did it in 5 minutes. Very small skip, 8988. And I didn't even go through all the terms. And that was what he said to me. This year, that was what he said when Richard Ruff originally approached me. He said, I tried to debunk it, but I can't. And I did it in like 5 minutes and found more codes on it. And then I started thinking, you're full of it, dude. There's no way. So this is the kind of listen. You need to know this kind of stuff. But these kind of people out there, and this is just one group, folks, just one group. Let me show you where they're at. I thought a really interesting location that they chose, and they did it for a reason. I know another group that chose this location for a reason, you guys. This is the one group that I know. They chose this because of the ley line of Jerusalem, which is bizarre to me why a believer in God would use ley lines. That seems more esoterical and new agey to me. But this other group, guess where they're at? Same ley line right here in Sonata. This is where they are. The body that was found in a 55-gallon drum was found in San Diego, connected to this group. The other body was found in Baja, off the coast. And then there's been other people that have died mysteriously, like the woman that he mentioned in that documentary, Rest in Peace, he said, died weird, a death. A lot of bizarre activity with this group. Not only did they dress in white, ley line for Jerusalem, they also got a cryptocurrency, God coin, right, that they try to get everybody on. That sound familiar? That sounds like shekel coin over here. That's so bizarre to me that two cults on the same ley line with so many similarities. It just weird to me. But you have to be aware of it. You got to know who we're dealing with. You're going to be approached by people that are convinced that they're one of the two witnesses. I can't tell you how that has been the number one delusion I've experienced as being a code searcher is the number of people, especially when it came to personal code searches for their name, is they think they're one of the two witnesses. Another one is they some of them think that they're the angel Michael, okay, and have known it since birth and all this kind of stuff. And um, some even think that they're the Messiah, and will try to use codes to prove that to do evil. So this is why we can't just let anybody in here. If anybody can go down to the Marine Corps recruiting station and talk to a recruiter, anybody, but not everybody's getting in. You understand? It's called the few and the proud for a reason, because there's high standards and not everybody can get in. Okay? It's the same way here. We're going to have high standards. We're not just going to enable someone to take our code program and go do something wicked. We are going to offer training, and the best training online. I can't find anybody else doing it. And we're talking about from basic level to mastery level in a 2-year period. By that time, you should be a good code searcher and know what you're doing. And if for some reason somebody slips in who is a cult member somewhere, within a 2-year period, I guarantee you we're going to identify them. If they even slip in, and I know they're going to, because just me doing this is going to be a challenge to some people. They're going to be like, challenge accepted. I guarantee you that this is not new to me. I've had to deal with this the whole time, you guys. I just didn't talk about it a lot, but I had to this time because of the engagement this past week and the fact that somebody tried to get into our system already, as if I had made a challenge. We'll just see if we can't get in there, right? And somebody tried, so uh, there's a reason for it. And like I said, I know some people are going to be upset that we're doing that, right? But like I said, we will make it available to everybody on the website. They can come to the website and either through tokens or whatever. I may even at some point, maybe in the beginning, allow people to come by and test drive for free in the beginning, and then charge a token or a monthly, um, you know, subscription. And that is to help us run the thing, you guys, and to house and to pay for the technology and the investment already. We can't just, throw it out on the street and just give it away for free. We something has value, right? And so it's protected. And I appreciate your concern there, Margie, from last week. And literally, like I said, the next day we were already seeing, issues where we'd stirred the pot a little bit. And you might have noticed in that video, I was a little apprehensive in talking about it because I instinctively knew it was going to draw some fire. And in fact, we did. So the work is still continuing. Matter of fact, I spoke to James several times this week. We've been debugging. I even test drove some stuff a little bit, and he's working on the interface and getting that all right. And again, he's got like 4 different jobs that he's doing, so he can't spend all his time doing this for us. So he has to spread that out. So it's a work that's still continuing. I'll continue to give you guys updates, and at some point, I'll have him over and he'll show us some things. I'd like to get some of the bugs worked out and stuff first before we do that. Uh, anyway, you guys got any questions or anything you want to add tonight? I've kept you a little longer. I am thankful too, Margie, and I need to pay him some money somehow, and I don't have any coming in. So we're gonna have to do a fundraiser really soon and try to get some funds for this. Um, yeah, I'd love to do it on the back end, but I don't know if we're gonna be able to hold out and do that because the man's got to eat, and he's gonna eat before I do. I guarantee you. So if it comes in through me, I'm passing it to him. I will, Michelle. I will do a broadcast. I don't know if it'll be a marathon broadcast, but it'll definitely be something long where we're talking all about codes and all about software and different things that we would like to see. Um, I had a great idea this past week. You guys know who Ivan Panin is? Ivan Panin. Ivan Panin was a Russian mathematician who was an atheist. He did not believe in God, and at some point he started looking at the Bible and in a different way. He was looking at mathematical patterns, and what happened was Ivan found a bunch of numerical patterns, codes, and he became a believer. He spent 50 years doing this work and compiled like 40 something thousand pages of Bible numerics. And I mean, he found a particular pattern with sevens. All right. So the Bible he concluded is a book of sevens. And you will not believe the number of mathematical, you think, the names code and chronological codes are amazing. What Ivan Panin found is staggering. All right, so let's just hear real quick from Chuck Missler.
The discoveries of Dr. Ivan Panin. He's a very interesting guy, born in Russia in 1855. He was exiled in early age, got tangled up in a plot against the Tsar.
43,000
Eventually
pages
emigrated to Germany.
of discoveries, you guys. What I would like to do is take all that data and give it to Gabriel so we can interact basically with Dr. Panin
And then finally to the United
through Gabriel.
States. He graduated from Harvard in 1882 with a PhD in mathematics. But then he discovered Jesus Christ. Now, by the way, every one of us in this room that has discovered Jesus Christ, whether you know it or not, is a result of a miracle wrought by someone's prayer. For some of you, the stories are really quite dramatic. For many of us, it's quite routine. But every one of us that accept Christ are a result of a miracle. But if you're a PhD from Harvard, that's a miracle indeed. Okay. But shortly after becoming a Christian, he discovered these heptadic structures, these sevenfold structures that underlie the biblical text. He discovered that about 1890. He committed the rest of his life, more than 50 years, generating over 43,000 pages, writing incidentally in very small letters. He's got a very tight hand of discoveries. He went to his Lord in October 30th of 1942 and left behind all kinds of discoveries. Candidly, it's very tedious to go through because it's laborious stuff, and yet what comes out of this are some treasures, and I'll show you a few highlights. The New Testament consists of 27 books, right? That means there's an opening and closing word to each of the 27 books. It begins and ends with a word, right? So 2 times 27, that means there's 54 words, right? Among those 54 words, there's a total vocabulary of 28 words that are multiple of 7 exactly. In the Gospels alone, there's multiple of 7 exactly. The total geometrical value of those words is also a multiple of 7 exactly. The value of the shortest word, which is 1 letter, is 70, and it's a multiple of 7, obviously. The value of the longest word is multiple of 7, and this one's particularly interesting. The longest word happens to be apocalypsis, and it happens to be 7 times 6 times 6 times 6. That's kind of interesting, I think. This is the one I love. I realize we're hitting a lot of these things. It may be overkill here, but I want to show you the one that blows me away completely. We've discovered the vocabulary in the Greek that's unique to Matthew. Now, understand what I'm talking about. The vocabulary is unique. These are words that only Matthew uses. If you go through the whole Bible, take all the words, there are 42, there's a vocabulary that's unique to Matthew. It occurs only 42 times, a multiple of 7 exactly, and those have 126 letters, a multiple of 7 exactly. Now, what makes this particularly peculiar is, let's assume for discussion that Matthew tried to do this on purpose. How would you do that? If you were Matthew and you decided you would like to have this characteristic in your gospel, how would you go about making sure that the words that you alone use is multiple of 7 exactly? Well, you can only do it 2 ways. You've got to sit down with all the other writers of the New Testament, assuming you can figure out who they're going to be, and get them to agree not to use your little list of words. How many think that happened? Not very likely. Or you could argue that this feature is an argument that Matthew wrote last. Because in theory, at least, he could lay down everybody else's writings and make sure that it fit. So you could use this as an argument that Matthew wrote his gospel last. He either had prior agreement, that doesn't make sense, or his gospel was written last. Okay, so these unique, the Gospel of Matthew has a vocabulary unique to itself that's a multiple of 7 exactly. So does Mark. Well, I thought Matthew wrote last. No, Mark wrote last, because Mark also has a vocabulary unique to him that's a multiple of 7 exactly. But so does Luke. And so does John. They each were written last. And obviously I'm being facetious. And so did James, Peter, Jude, and Paul. Each one was written last. In other words, each one has a vocabulary that nobody else uses that happens to be an exact multiple of 7. There's only one explanation for this that I can tolerate mathematically, and that is that the Holy Spirit was an overseer of every word, every letter.
And we know the New Testament has codes in it, folks.
In the New Testament. I think that's exciting. By the way, this even bridges the Old New Testaments. You know, I often joke that I'm going to have a conference and after this conference, we're going to tear out the page of the Bible tonight that's unnecessary. That'll smoke out all the fundamentalists, right? And they will very ceremoniously open the Bible and tear out the page between the Old and New Testament because it's unnecessary. There are words that have this heptatic feature if and only if you put the Old and New Testament together. The word hallelujah occurs 24 times in the Old Testament, 4 times in the New. 4 plus 24 is 28, a multiple of 7 exactly. Hosanna, shepherd, Jehovah Sabaoth. And I go through a list of these words that are not multiples of 7 in either Old or New Testament, but they are a multiple of 7 when you put the Old and New Testament together. I think that's kind of fun. All this, of course, is detailed in our briefing package called How We Got Our Bible. But the main point is these specifications that we talked about have been fulfilled. The specifications in the Bible says that he would be born of a virgin, and he was. That he'd be born in Bethlehem, and he was. That he'd be taken into Egypt, and he was. That he would heal the sick and make people whole, and he did. And each one of these is documented. You can look up the verses. He would be crucified, and he was. That he would die for our sins, and he did. That he would be raised from the dead, and he was. And so why do we accept the Bible? Because these little numbers from canon? No, that's not the reason. We do this because it's the authentication of Jesus Christ. The Septuagint has over 300 detailed specifications he's fulfilled in his lifetimes. The 70 weeks prophecy that we studied in Daniel chapter 9 is undeniable. So we have the authentication of who Christ is, first of all. The scripture authenticates who Christ was. Then we can lean on the authentication by Christ of the Torah, of Daniel, in fact, of the whole Old Testament. It's an integrated design. That's our apologetic. That's the one that's bulletproof. That these 66 books penned by over 40 different guys over virtually 2,000 years is an integrated package, and that it transcends the dimensionality of time itself. No other book on the planet Earth does that.
Amen.
66 separate books penned by 40 different guys who didn't even know each other over several thousand years. Their design anticipates in detail events before they happen. So obviously the source of this message is from outside our physical universe, outside our time domain. There are all kinds of hidden authentication codes in the scripture. We've talked about some of the microcodes, these little numbers and so forth. There are also macro codes. We went through Genesis chapter 5 and the fact that we have the summary of the Christian gospel tucked away in the genealogy in the Torah of all places. We have the macro codes. We looked at those in Genesis 5, Genesis 22, the Akedah, the book of Ruth, the whole book of Joshua, and of course the transcendent numerical design that we've touched on here, just as we go along the way. But there is something else. How can you personally say, Chuck, I'm not a mathematician. I don't want to get into all that stuff. But how can I know? How can you know? And Jesus answers that for you in John 7, verse 17. If any man will do his will, he shall know of the doctrine, whether it be of God or whether I speak of myself. That's Christ's challenge to you. Try it and see for yourself. One integrated design. The New Testament is in the Old Testament concealed. The Old Testament is in
And so
the New
that's
Testament
Chuck Missler talking
revealed.
about.
Once you begin
I think that's an excerpt from Cosmic Codes, maybe, just a little part on Ivan Panin. And by the way, had a thought while I was sitting there watching that. It would probably be really good for us if we also integrated the teachings and the writings of Chuck Missler in there. So we can access that as well. All that knowledge that he gave us, we can interact with. So um, I understand some of the concerns that I'm hearing about. We're not creating Grok or ChatGPT. We're creating a housed large language model that just happens to be very smart about the Bible and biblical things and codes. Um, it's simply not going to be a threat. Okay, it's not going to take over the world. I get that there are people who are worried about that. All right, so this is a priority. Um, Neither one of us wanted to create something that was going to get out of hand, but be a tool for us to use. Folks, if they're creating bad AIs that are going to work against us, it would behoove us if we had something working for us and for us, right? So that's the concept. So I appreciate the concern. We will always keep that in mind. I've been warned by Chris Ray that what I'm doing is not right. Um, Okay, I accept that. You know, I prayed about it. I've been praying about it since 2016. I'm pretty sure we're supposed to do this. Y'all wouldn't be opening the doors like he is if we weren't, all right? All the series of unfortunate events I told you about last week that brought us to that point. Um, it's very clear to me that we're supposed to do this. How can we push this thing forward with software that's it's not it's not up to par, right? We got to. You guys got any comments or anything you want to say before we close out tonight? I appreciate you being with me so late. Kept you late again. Any comments? Anything you guys want to share before we go? All right, you guys. You lost a code on. Yeah, that's one thing I don't like about it is it's how I've heard that before, Margie, where people have lost content because it wasn't able to be saved or something like that. And sometimes it happens with TorahSoft. If your computer shuts down or it just you overdo it with it, it'll freeze up and then kind of restart. If you didn't save, it's gone. Um, yeah. So what do you mean the shortest version of the info? Absolutely, Margie. I can I'll cut it off and you can call. Well, I'll leave a link, Michelle, down in the bottom that you can see. It's 4 hours long. You don't have to watch it all at one time. I didn't. I watched like an hour of it and you know went and kind of digested that and then I watched a little bit more. But I, you know, I wanted to be up to date on what these people have been doing, so I kind of forced myself to do it. It's very well. It's not hard to watch it. It's very well put together. It is long. So you know, you just got to navigate that. Very good information. I feel very sad for these people, you guys, and I feel very driven that's one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing, and teaching people how to correctly search codes and giving them the ability and the tools to do it. Um, you know, in a responsible way. Okay, so I'd like it for each one of those people to be able to get on a code program and prove that guy wrong. It's not hard to do if you know what you're doing, right? I did it in like 5 minutes, and I was not fooled ever, not 1 second, by the nonsense over there. But the fact of the matter is, there are thousands of people who fall for it. Okay, and so somebody's got to stand up. You don't feel drawn to do that? What am I missing? Yeah, yeah. I get it. All right, yeah. So on long videos, you can speed up the video and watch it fast, which sometimes I do that too. Um, anyway, let me turn this off and we'll hear from Margie. For those on YouTube, shalom to you. We'll see you in the next video.